about how it has affected me personally in terms of coming to understand better what a real threat it is in our communities. One of the first things we did when we created that commission was to attempt to study the problem and get a sense of the magnitude of the problem, because many people in our community want to sort of wish that away. They want to say, well, human trafficking, that seems like such an old-fashioned notion, that one person would enslave another and control their destiny. It can't really be going on in Ohio or in communities like Warren or Youngstown or Lisbon or wherever you were talking about. But in fact, it does go on. And we have learned, and our studies showed, that we estimate that as many as 1,000 young people last year fell into some form of sex trafficking. And we also estimate that for a young person who's separated from their household, it may be that they're a runaway, or there's some sort of disagreement, or some problem arises, and we have many broken homes which have no real order or rhyme or reason to them. If they're separated from the household for 72 hours, there is a very good chance that they will fall under the clutches of someone who will control them. It just takes putting a drug in a drink that they're drinking, and they may be compromised. If they can move them to a different location and get them out of their normal circumstances, then they can be controlled, and it's a terrible problem. We also have the problem of people who have come into this country whose papers and documents are controlled by someone else. And this is something that it affects some of the massage parlors, nail salons, and others in this state. We have found, and the Board of Cosmetology identified for us, that there's a problem of human trafficking among Southeast Asians who are coming to this country, and their documents are being controlled by someone else, and they can be manipulated as a result. We also have other immigrants who are here, in some cases illegally, in some cases legally. But again, if their documents are controlled by someone else, then they feel compelled to do the bidding of someone who does not have their best interests at heart. And we've come to see a myriad of situations in which one person is controlling another, and it is in fact what the pastor said is a form of slavery. And the modern abolitionist movement, I'm proud to say, in Ohio and elsewhere, has grown up to combat human trafficking. And it unites people from across the ideological spectrum. Some of the most liberal victims advocates and social justice proponents in our community, and some of the most conservative and evangelical of our churches are united in believing that we need to do more to stamp out human trafficking and to take on this problem in our midst, and not to ignore it, not to wish it away, not to minimize it, but to face up to it, to address it, to think about solutions, to strengthen our laws, to strengthen our prosecution, and to create a better understanding about it. That's something that I have pledged to do on a statewide basis, and I pledge to work with you in the Mahoning Valley and in Trumbull County on it as well. Let me talk a little bit about massage parlors, since I know that was also an issue tonight. The Attorney General's office has an ability under Ohio law to close down nuisance facilities. This is under Title 37 of the Ohio Revised Code. The Attorney General's office has used that power in the past to board up crack houses in some of the cities. We have used it more recently. We closed down a bar in Cincinnati where illegal drug activity was taking place in and around the bar, night in, night out. We can use that authority whenever a facility is being used for illegal activity, and that has shown to be the case over time. We can both enjoin that facility from engaging in any illegal activity, which you might think is kind of a given, but we can do that. We can also, if we can show that the owner had knowledge of the activity that was going on there, we can actually close the facility for up to a year. And that may be a useful strategy with some of the institutions that I've heard mentioned here tonight and that I was told about in preparation for coming tonight. We need cooperation from local law enforcement. They need to be able to document that the illegal activity has been occurring. We can get an injunction whether or not the owner is aware that the activity is occurring, but if they are aware, we can not only pursue people individually, but we can close that site for up to a year, which may well be dispositive in cleaning up the activity. So if in fact the community wants the Attorney General's office to work with you on that issue in particular, or other types of nuisance sites, where criminal activity you believe is occurring, we'll be happy to work with local law enforcement officials in that regard. Let me finally say about the Attorney General's office, and this is certainly will be true as long as I'm there. I think you will find that we are an office of listening people, that we want to hear from the community about what your needs are, what your goals are, what your aspirations are, and what your needs are. And we will help you with whatever resources we have, in good faith, with clear eyes, about what we can do and what we can't do. I don't have the ability to print money. I don't have bottomless resources in my office, but we do have resources, and we can bring them to bear to help our communities, which is why we were given resources in the first place. So we will work with you, and you need to work with us and help us understand what are your goals, what are your priorities, and then we will figure out how we can be helpful to you. We are helpful to you in many ways every day that you may not know about. We do consumer protection in the state. I run the State Bureau of Criminal Identification and Investigation, which supports your local law enforcement, your police, your sheriffs, your prosecutors in many ways every day. I run the state's crime labs, and contrary to what you may hear on the airways, we've made substantial progress in reducing response times there. We take on various public corruption cases, both sides of the aisle, and handle those. There's a lot of work that we do. We don't beat our chests about it. We often go unsung, but my agents and investigators and law enforcement officials work right alongside yours, and we make a difference in your community. If we can bring other resources to bear, whether from our crime victims section or from BCI, or helping to close down some of these institutions that you're concerned about in your community, or fighting the scourge of human trafficking, we want to do it. And we will continue to keep our ears open and our hearts open and our minds open to being helpful to the people of this area. And I thank you very much for having me here tonight. Thank you.
Giving us an understanding of what his office does and letting us know that he is available and that if you just need him, call him. And so now we're going to have a presentation, a testimony about land banking from Troy Kaler of the Perkins Neighborhood Association.